At my sister's wedding, my father demanded that I hand over my $2 million lake house so my sister could use it for her honeymoon. When I refused, he hit me so hard that I woke up in the emergency room. You won't believe what happened next. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're listening from in the comments. I'm Clara, I'm 31 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the invisible daughter. The responsible one. The one who worked 2 jobs while my parents spoiled my younger sister, Tiffany, like she was made of gold. Growing up, Tiffany got designer dresses, I got hand-me-downs. She crashed 2 cars, I paid my own insurance. Still, I never complained. I thought that if I just worked hard enough, my parents would finally see me as worthy of love. That illusion broke completely the week of Tiffany's wedding. I had taken a few days off work to help with last-minute arrangements. I thought I was being a good sister, ironing tablecloths, double-checking flower deliveries, running errands my mother was too busy for. My lake house, my one true piece of independence, was supposed to be my weekend escape. I'd bought it 3 years earlier after saving relentlessly from my corporate job, and it was the one place I truly felt peace. The night before the wedding, we had a small rehearsal dinner at my parents' estate. Wine flowed, laughter echoed, and I tried to ignore Tiffany's constant little digs how she joked about me living like an old spinster or being married to my job. I smiled and stayed quiet, the way I always had. Then, halfway through dessert, Dad stood up and clinked his glass. "Everyone," he said proudly, "I have a surprise announcement for my darling Tiffany." He turned toward me with a smile I immediately distrusted. "Your sister Clara has decided to let you and Daniel use her beautiful lake house for your honeymoon." The room erupted in applause. Tiffany squealed, "Oh my God, seriously? That's perfect." My mother dabbed her eyes dramatically. I froze. My fork slipped from my hand. "Excuse me," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Dad chuckled like it was a minor detail. "Oh, don't be shy, Clara. It's the least you can do for your sister. That place is just sitting there anyway." I felt my chest tighten. "Dad, I never agreed to that." The room went silent. Tiffany frowned. "What do you mean you didn't agree? You barely even use that house." I looked at her squarely. "It's not about how often I use it. It's my home. I bought it with my own money." Dad's expression changed from amusement to irritation. "Don't be ridiculous, Clara. Family helps family. Your sister deserves something special after all the sacrifices she's made planning this wedding." Sacrifices? I almost laughed. Tiffany hadn't paid for a single thing. The wedding was funded entirely by my parents. Still, I tried to keep my tone respectful. "Dad, I've already helped with plenty. I'm not giving up my house." His voice hardened. "You always have to make everything about you. You're jealous, that's the problem." I felt heat rush to my face. "Jealous? I've worked my whole life for that home. You think I'd give it away because Tiffany throws a tantrum?" Tiffany gasped. "Wow, you're unbelievable, Clara. I'm your sister. It's just for a few weeks. You act like I'm asking for your soul." I stood up, unable to sit through another minute of that performance. "I'm not discussing this anymore." I turned to leave, but Dad's hand slammed down on the table. "You will not walk away from me," he barked. "You'll do as you're told. You always think you're better than this family because you have that stupid job and a fancy house. Well, guess what? That job doesn't make you family." I swallowed hard, my hands trembling. "If being family means letting you take everything from me, then maybe I don't want to be." The room gasped. Tiffany whispered something to Mom, and I caught the word selfish. I left that night shaking, half expecting someone to apologize by morning. But none of them did. The next day, Tiffany's wedding day, I showed up only because my mother guilted me into it. "Don't ruin your sister's special day," she'd said over the phone. "You already embarrassed us enough last night." So I put on my pastel dress, forced a smile, and went to the venue. The ceremony itself was beautiful, but I felt like an outsider in my own family. Guests who barely knew me acted warmer than my own parents. I stayed on the sidelines, trying to keep my head down. During the reception, I stepped outside to catch my breath. The night air was cool, the lake shimmering in the distance. That's when I heard my father's voice behind me. "We need to talk." I turned around, already tired. "Dad, please, not now." He came closer, his jaw tight. "You humiliated this family last night. Do you have any idea how you made us look? By saying no." I shot back. "By standing up for myself." "You're ungrateful," he hissed. "We raised you, fed you, gave you everything, and this is how you repay us." I took a step back. "You didn't give me that house." I did that on my own. And I'm not giving it away. That's when it happened. He clenched his fists, his face red with fury, and before I could react he struck me. A blinding pain exploded across my cheek. I stumbled, tripped on the steps, and everything went dark. The last thing I remember was Tiffany's horrified voice somewhere in the background and the faint, mocking music of her wedding band playing inside. When I woke up, fluorescent lights burned my eyes. A steady beeping filled the silence. My throat was dry, my head pounding. I realized I was in the hospital. My cheek throbbed. I could taste blood. The nurse came in and told me I'd been unconscious for a few hours. Someone at the wedding had called an ambulance. My father wasn't there. Neither was my mother. But my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. When I glanced at the screen, I froze. Dozens of missed calls. Messages. Then one that made my breath catch. "Clara, it's Alexander Reed. Call me back as soon as you can." I saw what happened. I blinked. My CEO had seen the video. And just like that, I realized the story wasn't over yet. When I opened my eyes again, morning sunlight spilled across the white hospital wall. My cheek felt like fire every time I breathed. I had no idea how long I'd been out, only that the pain wasn't half as bad as the ache in my chest. My own father had hit me and no one had stayed. Not Mom, not Tiffany, no one. My phone buzzed again on the tray beside my bed. I stared at the screen. Alexander Reed. My heart skipped. Alexander wasn't just my boss, he was the CEO of the international firm where I'd worked for 7 years. Calm, intelligent, respected by everyone. He was also the kind of man people didn't just call back. You waited for permission. But this was the third message from him. I swallowed hard and hit dial. "Clara." His voice was low, steady, commanding, but there was something else in it too. Concern. "Yes, sir," I whispered. "I am sorry. I didn't mean for." "You have nothing to apologize for," he cut in firmly. I saw what happened. I froze. "You saw it." He exhaled softly. "Someone at the wedding uploaded a clip. It's already making rounds online. Don't look at it. Just tell me, are you safe?" I felt a lump in my throat. Physically, yes. Emotionally, I don't know. "Where are you now?" "St. Mary's Hospital." There was a pause. Then he said, "Stay there. I'm sending someone to get you." "Mr. Reed, that's not necessary." "It's not up for debate, Clara." The line went dead. I leaned back, stunned. My boss, a man who owned half of the city's skyline, had just personally intervened in my life. Within an hour, a sleek black car pulled up outside the hospital. A driver in a tailored suit approached my room with a polite bow. "Miss Clara, Mr. Reed sent me. Please, whenever you're ready." I hesitated, staring down at my wrinkled dress from the wedding. The nurse handed me a clean set of clothes, jeans, a soft blouse, and a note that simply said, "You don't owe them anything. AR." My throat tightened again. The drive was silent. My mind replayed every cruel word my father had thrown at me. The way my mother looked away. Tiffany's tears, not for me, but for the spectacle I'd caused. It was always that way with them. Appearance over everything. When we stopped, I realized we weren't at my apartment. We were at the Reed Global Headquarters, the company I worked for. The driver opened the door, and there he was, Alexander Reed himself, standing near the entrance in a crisp charcoal suit. He looked every bit the powerful CEO he was, but his expression softened when he saw me. "Clara," he said quietly, his eyes scanning the bruise on my face. "I'm so sorry." I lowered my gaze. "You didn't have to come here. This is my family's mess." He shook his head. "You're my employee, my responsibility. And from what I've seen, you've spent your life cleaning up after other people's messes." I didn't know what to say. For years I'd admired him from a distance, not romantically, but as someone whose discipline I respected. He was everything I aspired to be: calm, controlled, untouchable. And now he was looking at me like I was someone worth protecting. He gestured for me to follow him into his private office. I'd only ever been inside once during a promotion meeting, but now it felt different. Warmer, somehow. He poured me a glass of water and leaned against the desk. "I read your file again this morning," he said. "You've been one of the top-performing executives in the company for 5 years straight. You closed contracts worth millions. And yet, you've never taken full credit." I fidgeted with the glass. "It's not really my style to brag. That's exactly why people like your family think they can walk over you." His words hit like a quiet thunderclap. He continued, "Clara, you're talented. You've built something for yourself despite everything. Don't let them make you feel small for it." Tears pricked my eyes. I hadn't cried at the hospital, but somehow, his kindness cracked something open in me. I don't know how to face them again, I admitted. They think I ruined Tiffany's big day. He crossed his arms. You didn't ruin anything. They did. But if you still want closure, I'll make sure you get it. I blinked. What do you mean? I'm supposed to attend a private investor dinner tonight, he said casually, and it happens to be at the same hotel where the wedding reception is continuing. I think we should go together. My stomach flipped. You want me to go back there? He nodded once. Not as the daughter they humiliated, but as the woman who owns that lake house they wanted to steal. The woman who built her own empire. I hesitated. They'll never see me that way. He smiled faintly. Then let's make them. The rest of the day passed in a blur. His assistant arranged everything: a soft ivory dress that fit like it was made for me, light makeup that hid the bruise, heels that clicked with confidence I hadn't felt in years. By evening, when I looked in the mirror, I almost didn't recognize myself. I didn't look broken anymore. I looked powerful. Alexander met me in the lobby. When he saw me, his eyes softened, but his tone stayed formal. Ready, as I'll ever be, I said, taking a steady breath. We stepped into the elevator together. The mirrored walls reflected a strange image: a bruised woman and a billionaire side by side, walking towards something neither of us could predict. As the elevator doors opened, I heard the faint hum of laughter, clinking glasses, and familiar voices. My family's voices. The reception was still going. My parents were probably entertaining guests, pretending nothing had happened. But not for long. We walked into the grand hall. The chandeliers shimmered, violins played softly, and for a moment, time seemed to freeze. Heads turned. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Then someone whispered, "Is that Alexander Reed?" Tiffany's new husband's jaw dropped. My mother went pale. My father's glass nearly slipped from his hand. And there I was, standing beside the man they'd seen on magazine covers, the one they probably bragged about me working for. Only now, I wasn't standing as their embarrassed daughter. I was standing as his equal. Alexander placed a hand lightly at my back, his voice calm and commanding as he greeted the nearest table. "Good evening. I'm sorry for the interruption, but I couldn't let my colleague Clara face this alone." Every whisper in the room melted into stunned silence. And my parents? Their faces turned the color of paper. I could feel the air in the hall shift. The laughter, the music, even the clinking glasses, everything froze. My parents stood at the far end of the reception, faces pale as marble. Tiffany's painted smile faltered. Her husband leaned in to whisper something, but she didn't move. Alexander's voice carried through the silence. "Good evening," he said with a calm, commanding tone that drew every gaze to him. "I'm Alexander Reed, CEO of Reed Global. I just wanted to take a moment to congratulate Mr. and Mrs. Walters on their daughter's wedding." The crowd murmured politely, unsure why a billionaire CEO was attending such a modest event. Alexander smiled, his eyes glinting faintly as he continued, "And, of course, to commend someone here who's played a far more important role than anyone gives her credit for, Miss Clara Walters." Every head turned to me. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. "She's one of my most dedicated executives," Alexander said proudly. "Her work has helped our company secure multi-million-dollar contracts. I dare say she's the kind of woman who builds empires quietly while others take credit for her strength." I saw Tiffany blink rapidly, confusion flickering in her eyes. My mother's lips parted, but no sound came out. My father looked like he'd swallowed a stone. Then Alexander added, "And for those of you who don't know, Clara recently purchased one of the most beautiful lake houses in the region, a symbol of hard work, discipline, and independence. It's an achievement most people can only dream of." My stomach tightened, but in the best way possible. He wasn't just complimenting me, he was reclaiming the very thing they had tried to take away. Alexander paused, then looked directly at my father. "I believe there was some misunderstanding about that property recently, wasn't there?" The entire room turned to stare at my family. My father's jaw tensed. It was a family discussion," he stammered. Alexander nodded politely. "Ah, family. The most powerful word and sometimes the most dangerous one." The audience chuckled lightly, tension rippling through the air. My father looked like he wanted to disappear. Tiffany's new husband reached for her champagne glass, his hand trembling. Alexander's expression softened again as he turned to me. "Clara, I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable, but I couldn't stand by after seeing how some people mistake kindness for weakness. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone." For a second I couldn't speak. My throat felt tight, my vision blurry from unshed tears. I simply nodded, whispering thank you. He gave me a reassuring look before continuing to address the room. Since this is a celebration, allow me to add to it. Starting next quarter, Clara will officially join our leadership team as Vice President of Operations. She's earned every bit of it and then some. Gasps filled the room. My parents looked like they'd been struck by lightning. Tiffany's mouth dropped open. I didn't move. I just stood there, letting their shock wash over me. All the years of belittling, the lectures about being too career-focused, the constant reminders that I'd never be as loved as Tiffany, they all evaporated in that moment. Alexander continued, "Oh, and as a personal gesture, I've decided to sponsor the couple's honeymoon at my private resort in the Maldives. That way, everyone gets what they want." The crowd laughed and clapped politely, but Tiffany's face was red with humiliation. My mother tried to fake a smile that came out more like a grimace. My father didn't move an inch. I finally found my voice. "That's very generous of you, Mr. Reed," I said softly, meeting his gaze. "But I think they already have a destination picked out." Alexander smiled knowingly. "Yes. But perhaps now they'll realize generosity is something you earn, not demand." His tone was kind, but the message landed like a thunderbolt. My father's hand twitched around his glass. Tiffany looked like she might cry. Then, for the first time that night, I took a slow, steady breath and walked toward my parents. The crowd parted like water. My heels clicked against the marble floor. Every eye was on me. When I stopped in front of them, my father couldn't look at me. My mother stared at the floor. Tiffany's husband whispered something about needing air and disappeared toward the bar. I stood tall. "You hit me," I said quietly, my voice calm but firm. "You called me selfish. You made me believe that my success was something to be ashamed of. But tonight, you get to see what happens when the daughter you dismissed finally stops apologizing." No one spoke. Even the music had stopped. My father's lips trembled. "Clara." I lost my temper. "I didn't mean." "You did," I interrupted. "And I'm done pretending you didn't." I turned to my mother. "And you watched it happen." Her eyes filled with tears. "We just wanted everyone to be happy." "No," I said. "You wanted everyone but me to be happy." She reached out a hand, but I stepped back. The weight that had pressed on my chest for years, the need to please, to be accepted, to earn their approval, finally lifted. Alexander was still nearby, quietly watching, but not interfering. He understood this was my moment. I looked at them one last time. "I hope Tiffany enjoys her honeymoon. I really do. But I won't ever let you take from me again." I turned away, my head high. The crowd started to clap softly, hesitant at first, then louder until the sound filled the hall. People I didn't even know looked at me with respect, some even with admiration. As Alexander and I left the reception, the cool night air hit my face like freedom. He opened the car door for me, his expression unreadable. "You didn't need me to defend you," he said quietly as I got in. "You just needed someone to remind you who you are." I smiled faintly. "Still, thank you for reminding them too." He chuckled softly. "Oh, trust me, they won't forget tonight." When I got home, I stood by my window, looking out at the moonlit water of my lake house. It wasn't just a house anymore. It was proof. Proof that I had built something no one could take from me. The next morning, I received a message from Tiffany. Just 2 words: "I'm sorry." I didn't reply, because sometimes silence is the sweetest revenge of all.